In my first semester of college, I went on date after date after date after date with girl after girl after girl after girl. Most of these girls were all right. They were great girls, but they just weren't the kind of girl that I could see myself dating, being around. And truth be told, I never really had a girlfriend before. And so when I first met my now wife, my second semester of college, I was extremely scared of her. Not scared of her because she was mean or assaulting, scared of her because I knew that this was a girl that hit all the criteria that I was looking for, and that if I did anything wrong, she would leave. Flash forward, after our fourth date, I had yet to even kiss her, and yet to even do anything sort or close to affectionate. Because I was scared that if I were to do anything like that, it would turn her away. And so I asked her on our fourth date in a parking lot, together in a car, babe, is this something that I should take seriously? To which she responded with a subtle kiss on my face. That was a truly bold moment. Not bold particularly for me, but bold for her because she had been thinking the exact same thing. She had been thinking, oh, it's been 4 dates and he hasn't tried to do anything yet. But I like this kid. He's great. He makes me laugh. He's charismatic. And even though I am faced with certain doom if this goes awry, I have to try it. We've been married for 2 years since. We've all had those thoughts day in and day out where we envision ourselves as some sort of hero, some sort of protagonist, someone who could go out and punch the bully in the nose, get the girl, purchase the car, be bold. But nowadays, that's just not what you see in yourself anymore. Not what you really envision. As you wake up from those dreams, you realize that those are never going to be your reality. That you're not that guy. And as you look to the left and to the right of your classmates at school, you see them with their hot girlfriends and their cool cars, making people laugh. And you wonder to yourself, why is that not me? Why am I not like him? Well, I'll sit here and tell you, you are more like him than you think. You lack boldness. You lack the subtle aggression of communication. And that gamble, that important gamble of words. Because that's what true boldness is. It is a gamble of words, knowing that if you lack it, but you attempt it, it could truly be your downfall.
I don't care if they lay me off either because I told Bill that if they move my desk one more time, then I'm quitting. I'm going to quit. And I told Dom too because they've moved my desk 4 times already this year, and I used to be over by the window and I could see the squirrels, and they were married, but then they switched. See.
Hi, Milton.
But
What's happening?
I was said
Milton, we're going to need to go ahead and move you downstairs into storage B.
No, I was told I could
have
not.
some new people
Yep.
coming in,
No,
and we need all the
there's-
space we can get.
but there's no space.
So if you could
in-
just go ahead and
if-
pack up your
it-
stuff
it-
and move it down there,
But no,
that would be terrific.
I was told
Okay.
I could stay. Excuse me. I believe you have my stapler.
This clip demonstrates absolutely everything that a lack in boldness embodies. It demonstrates a character who, at the beginning, describes himself as someone who will not take no for an answer and someone who will go against the grain, so to speak. When in reality, when he is commanded to do something that he does not agree to or that he does not want to do, he folds and he gives in and and he ends up in the basement. But what is the differential factor between us and someone like Milton? The differential factor, again, is boldness. But how can we become more bold? People are not as intimidating as you think they are. I'm sure you've heard the quote, go out there and imagine everyone in your underwear. Now, as someone who has publicly spoken for a good portion of his life, I can tell you that that quote really got on my nerves, as it never really helped. But there is a subtle truth to that. That subtle truth is that people are more alike than they are not alike. Everyone goes through the same things, the same emotions, the same lives, but different stories. And because of that, we adapt differently. Some adapt to an abusive father, and because of that, they become abusive themselves. While others adapt to that abusive personality and become frail and quiet. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say is that everyone can be bold and that it can be learned. And throughout that learning process, you recognize that everyone is more alike than they are different. Now, I don't sit up here and I don't try to persuade you that I am the perfect embodiment of boldness. When I was in high school, I had a crush on this girl. I believe I was in 9th grade. And I had told myself day in and day out that Friday when we would all get together as a friend group, I would kiss her. And I envisioned situation after situation after situation and how this would succeed. And then the day came and we had a good time and the friend group was great. And she was the last one to walk into the house. When right before she walked in, I grabbed her and I said, "Hey, I like you a lot," and then went in for the kiss. Now I take a look back and I recognize I had not made an attempt to get to know this girl beforehand. I had not made an attempt to really know what she's like, what her family's like, what her situation's like. I just thought that if I was aggressive enough in trying to kiss her, that she would kiss me back. Her swerving me was the answer that I needed. It taught me that to be bold, you have to be educated. You have to really understand and not just think. If I had gone into that situation, talking to her, getting to know her, maybe taking her on a nice date where I picked her up from her house, talked to her parents, opened the door for her, was respectful enough to talk to her about her day, about interests, then that boldness would have been rewarded with a kiss. Good night. It's better to not sit into your thoughts and to think of potential situations and where you succeed or where you fail and how you understand that, than it is to do your research and to truly understand what person that is, or what audience that is, or what room that is, or what situation that is, and then to execute it. The execution of being bold is far easier than you think. There's this new phenomenon on the internet. It is most identified with Forrest Gump. I can put the title of it on the screen, but I will not say it. This new phenomenon of maxing is directly correlated with letting go of subconscious thought and just pushing for action. It's associated with Forrest Gump because if you've ever watched a movie, he doesn't do a lot of thinking. He does a lot of action. And because he does a lot of action and he accepts every single situation that he's in, he ends up succeeding and going on to tell one of the greatest stories ever made. But why does that work? It works because we have a mental block. The block telling us not to do something, not to execute, not to go in for the kiss, or not to go into our boss's office and ask for a raise. Because our brain is telling us that we're just going to be met with failure anyways. Well, Forrest Gump in that situation would go in, ask for a raise, maybe not get it, and then work hard enough to go ahead and get it. And so if you're going to think and prepare yourself to execute your boldness, the best thought that you could present yourself with is one of what is the worst that could happen. To go back to my previous example, what's the worst that could happen if this girl doesn't want to kiss me back Friday night? Well, the worst that could happen is she tells all her friends and I'm embarrassed for a week. But do you think people are going to make fun of me for that? I expected that would happen, but no one made fun of me for that. Funny enough, I found that most people were impressed that I attempted it to begin with. Fueling more ambition for boldness. So ask yourself now, if you're going to go into your boss's office, educated, doing your research on how well you're doing your job, talking to your peers, preparing yourself, again, and asking what's the worst that could happen if you could get a raise. Go ask that girl on the date. What is the worst that could happen? Do your research. For most flowers, good bosses, the worst that happens is be a gentleman. He says no, and be bold. You get a little review and report card of what you could be doing better. Now, if your boss is terrible, then maybe the worst that could happen could turn into the best that could happen. You find a better job with a better boss.